My name's Kit Hazington, and when I was in my 20s, I worked at Bennington County Humane Society from 1983 to 1987. At the time, the facility was significantly smaller than it is now. I think we had around 8 dog runs and maybe 24 cages for cats. And when you look at the fact that 2,000 animals a year roughly came through, the sheer numbers were overwhelming. And when you look at 2,000 animals and you figure 75% of them probably weren't adoptable, but we placed roughly 90% of the ones that were, 400 to 500 animals a year, I would say we placed. And when you look at the population of Bennington County, and we serve not only Bennington County, but eastern New York, northern Massachusetts, probably southern Rutland County, and other surrounding areas, we feel like we did a pretty good job of placing them, but there just simply were not enough homes. So we had to make decisions about who got to stay and who got to go.
Were you ever empty?
No, we were never empty.
Behind me is the building where Kit worked so many years ago. It's still a shelter. It's still the only shelter in Bennington County. And they're still inside waging the good fight, trying to convince people why they should get their animals fixed and offering low-cost spay and neuter programs to help deal with the skyrocketing vet costs we all seem to be getting hit with. So I thought we'd stop in and see how goes the battle.
Gonna try and have a conversation in the kennel. I think
it's gonna be funny.
I think Cass is gonna have an awesome time with this.
Feeding too, so
Yeah.
that's gonna add to it.
Oh God.
Oh really? Okay, so we're about to hear.
Really exciting.
Oh, if they're eating dinner, they might be happy, but quiet.
It's very quiet. It's wonderfully quiet.
It's a
Can you hear us at all?
Can you hear anything?
All right, so we're going to go back.
Bennington County Humane Society, which runs under the name of Second Chance Animal Centre, was started in 1959 as a 2-room shelter. We are now a 2-level, full of basement and this adoption floor and the stuff you guys don't see. The average length of stay for a dog is 28 days. The average length of stay for a cat is 31 days. So even if we're moving them through that quickly, they only stay a month, there's still more and more and more and more coming in, and it creates a bottleneck.
Has there ever been a day since you've been here, Shona, where it's been practically empty?
It can happen, usually right around December and January, because the kitten season is over. There's nobody breeding, it's kind of quiet, and like my end of year numbers on the 31st of December might be low teens, never empty, but low teens. Over 50% of each year's intake is kittens under the age of 6 months. If we could stop off the flow of kittens, that would make a huge dent. The flow of kittens would make a massive dent in cat overpopulation, because once they're kittens, then they get to be adults and then they're breeding.
We should probably talk about those numbers because at first blush they sound terrific. We go from over 2,000 animals a year in the 80s to a little over 600 a year now. That's a 30% drop. That's pretty damn good. But to understand why they might be suspect, we have to delve into a hot button shelter issue, and that's kill versus low kill. Back in Kit's day, this was a kill shelter, meaning that they had to euthanize for space. They only had so much space, and so if more animals were showing up than they had space for, then decisions had to be made. In the intervening years, this has become a low-kill shelter, meaning they don't euthanize for space, but they still have only so much space, so at the end of the day, they have to turn away people, but with a big but. Kit will explain what it was like to work at a kill shelter, and Shona will bring us up to date on a low-kill shelter.
Oh yeah, the job made all of us cry at some point or another. Having to pick and choose who lives, who dies, and then having to do it. And it was hard. It was incredibly hard. I guess the thing that kept me there for 4 years was the fact that even if I had to kill an animal, and I killed a lot of animals, at least I knew that animal left this world in the hands of somebody who gave a shit. Somebody who really cared, as opposed to being struck by a car, dying of starvation, being shot by somebody because it was harassing their livestock or their chickens. At least we accomplished the objective of euthanasia, which euthanasia is good death. And that was really what kept you going there. And the wins, when you got the wins, when you found that really nice cat or dog and found it a really good home, that kept you going. But that was a perk, that was a benefit. That wasn't the norm.
Open admissions says that they will take everybody, but they will euthanize for space.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right.
I hate to say that, and that's
But
I hate
that's
to say
the
that.
truth.
That's the truth. Open admissions means they'll take anybody,
Right.
and they will
And
euthanize
they-
for space,
who
which is
they-
why we're limited admission, because we never euthanize for space.
Right.
Does that make sense
Right,
to
so
you?
you're limited because at the end of the day, you have a space for 100 cats, and you've got 100 cats, and you're waiting
Yes.
for human beings to show up to take those 100 cats. And quite frankly, at the rate humans are showing up for the month of November, looks like we could have 100 cats for the next 4
Yes.
weeks.
Yes.
And then here comes a whole bunch of new strays, and
And
you
we're
go,
like-
we're maxed, folks. I don't know, hang on to them.
And that's
take-
when we offer, we have a wait list. In August,
Yeah.
when kitten season is really high, because kitten season is the thing, they breed from April, May through October, November.
Oh, so that's when you get hit
That's
the hardest.
That's the hardest. That's when we take in a vast majority of our felines.
So then there's kittens all over the place.
Dogs, we're steady all year long.
Right.
But when we are at maximum capacity, I had that situation yesterday. I'm sorry, we can't take this mum and kittens. We can't take this adult cat. Can you hold it? We'll put you on the wait list. Can you hold it for a week, 10 days? If I give you food, if I give you a condo, here's numbers to alternative shelters. I know it's a drive, but here's how we
Right.
can help you. We don't like to say no and then cut people off.
Right.
We want to help, and that's our mission, is to help. But if we have no space, we have no space.
So you can see why the numbers are problematic. If we have to turn away people due to space constraints, the question becomes, will that person be patient? Will they hang on to that unwanted animal until I can get a space in here for it? Or will they just say, it's not my problem, and then just dump it back where they found it? We don't know because those numbers aren't kept, but if you've ever fostered kittens, you know that a lot of people don't come back. But, and this is a big but, let's just assume for the sake of argument that the numbers are indeed better today than they ever have been in the history of the shelter. Shona still wants us to realize something, that the amount of animals that they are being hit with every year is still overwhelming. She describes it as a faucet they can't seem to figure out how to turn off. And that's why this hot button issue about kill versus low kill is still a thing, because no one really knows which philosophy is better for these animals. And maybe neither of them really is. Part of this all, Shona, part of this is all based on hope. I know that God is taking care of all those cats that we pretty much have to throw back outside. I mean, that is really, one method said, instead of throwing them back outside, we send them to God now. The other method says, let's throw them outside, and God, whatever you're going to do to them, just try not to do it in a bad way. So it really comes back to, two of these methods are being attempted, and it sounds like they're both, when I talk to both groups, they're both unsatisfactory, because the bottom line is that people are just not stepping up to do their responsibility. So we have these two methods that suck for both groups, that wear you down, tire you out, don't really work, but it's the best thing depending on which side you're on, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be the new home of the Second Chance Animal Center. It's going to be bigger and better in many ways, but one thing it won't really do is have more capacity. They just don't have the money for it. And even if they built a big enough building to house all the animals that were left on their doorstep every year, the bottom line is this: it would become a cat and dog zoo. The reason it would become a zoo is there's just not enough humans showing up to adopt animals here. There never have been, and there never will be. And that brings us back to, what is the problem with Bennington County? You see, we're known for our cat problem. We don't really have a problem with dogs as much as we have a big problem with cats, and we've had it now since anybody can remember. In fact, we're so well known for our cat problem that other shelters will contact us to see if we have cats to spare. You see, maybe it doesn't matter what philosophy you have for your shelter. Kill, low kill, no kill. Maybe it doesn't matter how much educational outreach you do. Do that to your blue in the face. Maybe it doesn't matter that you have a low-cost spay and neuter program. You could make it free, and it still wouldn't solve the central problem. And the problem is this. There are a group of people, and they've been here for as long as there's been a shelter. Their faces have changed over the years, but their mindset has not. And their mindset says this: I don't care. I don't care about cats. I don't care about dogs. Don't bug me with it. It's not my problem. I don't care what happens to them. And until we figure out how to breed that mindset out of our population, well, we're going to be talking about this problem till we're old men and women. Fun fact, unlike humans, cats can breed to the day they die. Sauce, Jeanette News, I'll see you soon.